Well, the season 6 reunion for Love is Blind is here, and I can't wait to dive into it. What? What was that, guys? Kenneth is not here. Oh, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and FaceTime him and see what he says. Hey, Kenneth. Yeah, how are you, buddy? Where are you? You're dolphin watching. This guy. Can you get here in time? You can't. All right. Delay the reunion. Guys, this wouldn't be the first time we delay a reunion. Yeah. What's going on, you guys? James here with another real recap and review. Yes, now Kenneth made it to the reunion, and we're going to dive into all the drama because we're finally at the very end of Season 6. It's been a wild ride, and I've been recapping it week to week, so if you haven't seen those recaps, check them out. And I dropped my predictions video, so I wonder if I'll even get one or two things correct here. But all I know is that Laura and Sarah Ann are going at it, and we will be present to watch with popcorn and plenty of Cheez-Its. But guys, before I give you my spoiler-free thoughts and my spoiler-filled recap, which of course you can find those segments with the time codes below, if it is your first time here at the channel and you love Love is Blind, come on, get subscribed to the channel. What are you doing? Join the real family, and go ahead and like this video and get loud in the comments below, and let me know what you think of this reunion and which moment was your favorite, because y'all, if things get crazy, I'm calling it out, I promise. All right, we got a little bit of time left, right? I'm gonna go get ready, sit down, watch the reunion, and I'll catch you right afterwards, and I'm gonna give you all of my thoughts. So let's get into it. Okay, you guys, wow. That was arguably one of the longest, if not the longest, reunions in Love is Blind history, but so much drama to discuss. So again, we're gonna start with the spoiler-free thoughts, because while this was an hour and 37 minutes of our time as fans, I have to say, I believe this is the best reunion to date for Love is Blind. I love the fact that the Lachey's finally came to the table with questions that were, 1, relevant, for the most part, 2, they were pressing some of the contestants, and 3, they truly did not let anyone off the hook. Well, except maybe for Kenneth. They didn't press Kenneth enough. That's one thing I didn't like, that they didn't really give a lot of shine to that. It was a big moment, but it felt sort of like a mature response from both Brittany and Kenneth. We'll talk more about that in my spoiler recap, but let me tell y'all, nobody got let off easy. Alright, we already knew Trevor was going to be there. Didn't get let off easy. Jimmy? Not at all. Jessica? Well, she took some accountability too. Sarah Ann? Someone check on her feet, because if she kicked any sort of rocks like Laura wanted her to, they're hurting right now. But man, oh man, was this reunion so entertaining. It did feel a little long towards the end, I'm not gonna lie. The back half of this reunion wasn't really all that great, because they really front-loaded the reunion with a ton of drama, and I reacted quite a bit. I was laughing. I was thinking, oh boy, here comes the mess, and I'm so glad that they brought the mess. And, you know, it was kind of nice to check in on some of our past contestants. Was it totally necessary? Maybe not, but listen, I'm always here for more Tiffany and Brett, because they're awesome, we love them, and they're so unproblematic. So, yeah, I would say that this was a very solid reunion, and it does give me hope moving forward. I'm starting to think, guys, Nick and Vanessa Lachey, they got it in them, don't they? They can do this thing. So yeah, I really enjoyed this reunion. Now, I can't say much more until I give you a spoiler warning. So yes, this is your one and only spoiler warning, because we're about to get into all of my thoughts. We're breaking down all the beef, trust me. But before we get into it, again, if you haven't watched it, hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, save this to your watch later list, and come back after you finish watching it, because again, this is a late one, so I don't blame you if you have to watch this over the weekend. And let me know all your comments down below, your thoughts, as we get into this spoiler recap. So guys, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in front of a live audience, even though this was previously recorded, and the past contestants are already there. And doesn't the production value seem like it was increased for this reunion? Did no one else notice the insane amount of food on the table? But this was actually, I feel like, a very well done from a production standpoint type of reunion, and the camera cuts were really messy. So what happens is, of course, Nick, Vanessa, Lachey welcome everybody, and then they bring out our contestants from season 6. They begin with Johnny and Amy looking great, so happy together. 80 and Clay, not holding hands, Still smiling though. Then we got Chelsea coming in by herself, and then Jessica and Jeramey, but again, they're not dating. Jimmy is coming in by himself after those two, and then we finally rounded off with Brittany and Kenneth coming in together. And if you watched my predictions video for the reunion, you know I was missing some names for the couples, but I got them. Thank you guys. So our past contestants that are already on the stage are from previous seasons of Love is Blind, like Tiffany and Brett, love them, Chelsea and Kwame, surprisingly Kwame, no guitar, Alexa and Brennan, they seem to be very happy. Izzy and Micah, what are they? Don't know. Giannina and Blake. Yes, Blake from a different reality show, The Bachelorette. So nice to see them together. Giannina pregnant, so happy for them. And then Colleen and Matt. And no, Colleen surprisingly did not do any sort of... They didn't ask her to like do any sort of ballet stuff. So I'm kind of glad. She probably didn't want to do that. But their segment was interesting. So... Alrighty guys, we dive into it, and Nick says his famous line from the trailer, "Get your EpiPens ready." Goodness gracious, it's so cheesy. And when I tell you the production was increased, I gotta be honest, the amount of shade that the producers threw was also increased because they gave Trevor a countdown timer for his arrival. Like, be for real, y'all. Really? The not so incredible Hulk gets his own countdown for arrival? Now y'all know that man was sweating. Yeah. So we begin, of course, with checking in on the one successful couple from season 6, Amy and Johnny, and yeah, y'all, they seem to be doing great. They talked about how they've been taking family vacations. They went to Paris? Yeah, Paris. They ended up going to, you know, celebrate Christmas together in Charlotte, and then they showed, you know, some photos they took, I guess, over like the holiday break. Y'all remember that trend of people taking really awkward JCPenney photos with, you know, their families? Well, in this instance, it was like Johnny and Amy and then another couple, I guess, their relatives, and that mock JCPenney photo shoot, I'm sorry, y'all, was not it. Johnny with the pigtails, I'm like, bro, what did they pay you to show these photos in front of the world? Because, oh my gosh. And as we expect in every Love is Blind reunion, they did a montage, and, well, this wasn't the only montage. This one in particular, though, was of past Love is Blind couples. They could have cut this whole segment out. Like, they could have saved it, kept it on the cutting room floor. Why? We don't need to go back and recant all of the wonderful moments between our successful Love is Blind couples from past seasons. It maybe is very nostalgic for, like, you know, Chelsea and Kwame, Colleen and Matt, Alexa and Brennan, so on and so forth. But they can just watch it on Netflix. They pay just like we do, right? So they could just go back and watch these moments themselves. Why did we need to spend like 10 minutes on this? And throughout this reunion, they did check-ins periodically on past contestants. So we'll begin with Giannina and Blake. Giannina reveals she's pregnant and they're expecting a boy, but they haven't decided on a name yet. She mentions they have a Blake kind of name, you know, I guess she means that it's like kind of bland, and then they have a spicy name, right? Okay. And shortly after that, they awkwardly transition to Jeramey, and let me tell y'all, the drama begins now. But trust me when I tell you the transition was very awkward. So Jeramey, of course, wearing his suit, blazer at least, and suit pants, and then he's got a Hawaiian shirt. Why? And, well, I'll have to say, when they eventually introduce Sarah Ann, because they bring her in, I don't know why, but I just started cracking up. Possibly because I knew the drama was coming and was, you know, beginning to boil, and it was just really funny because everyone knows she's the villain in season 6, everyone. So when she walked in so happy and looking like she somehow stumbled and fell on a shelf in Michael's in the arts and crafts section with all that glitter on her, I guess she had no shame. She was just like, yeah, I did DM your man, Laura. And before Sarah Ann sits down, they kiss. And somebody off camera said, oh, not the kiss. I don't know who it was, but props to you. They revealed that they're living together, and honestly, they seem like they're good. So we know, guys, they did more than just, I don't know, say hello and talk to one another at 5 a.m. They did more than that, y'all. And then eventually, Vanessa Lachey introduces Laura, zooming in from Barcelona because she's there for work. What does she do? I don't know, and I don't remember. And as they're introducing Laura, Sarah Ann looks to Jeramey and says, do we clap? And to that, Jeramey says, no. I'm like, y'all, yeah, this is messy. Y'all, this is messy. And Nick eventually, of course, says, we're going to start with you, Jeramey, with your social media drama. And I'm like, yes, Nick, yes. So Nick, of course, asked Jeramey to kind of talk about how you were in a relationship. You were engaged right before filming, and then you broke it off and went into filming, and then your ex-partner came on and said stuff. You know, that speak to that, Jeramey. Yeah, we all want to know. Well, you guys, Jeramey said it's not true. He said that he was previously engaged, yes, but he applied to the show after he ended things, not before he ended things with his former partner. And Laura pretty much corroborates that and says, you know what, yeah, Jeramey did mention that to me in the pod, so all that social media drama, I guess, for nothing. But don't worry, there's more social media drama to come. And in true Vanessa Lachey fashion, she says, alrighty, come on now, Jeramey, why did you lie about your location to Laura? So this is Jeramey now trying to clear his name and says all he did was drop off Sarah Ann. Give it up, homie. We know it's not true. And Vanessa says, but the question wasn't what you did, but why did you lie about your location? And I'm like, Vanessa Lachey, what J school did you go to over the break? You learned a little bit of the tools of the trade when it comes to being a reporter and asking the good questions. Jeramey said, oh, I didn't intentionally lie about that. You liar. You're lying through your teeth, homie. Yeah, no. He intentionally lied about that. And then Laura says that she is of the mindset that Sarah Ann and Jeramey actually corroborated together on the lie to keep the story together, which Jeramey said that's not true. Jeramey said, well, actually, Laura, I stayed downstairs, right? Until you woke up, Laura, and then I told you. Well, Laura says that's not true. Laura claims that she had to confront Jeramey after waiting in the living room for him to get home and says she should have been waiting on the porch instead. Go ahead, girl. With rocks and open-toed shoes, I bet. Yeah, here you go. Here's a sandal for you, Jeramey, and here's a rock. Kick it right now. And all the while, the past contestants from previous seasons of Love is Blind were making the funniest faces, and Kwame's face had me cracking up. But then we transition back to Laura, and she says, you're a clown. She has go-tos, clown being one of them. And then Sarah Ann goes to bat for her man and says, you better watch your tone, homie. And then we hear the line from the trailer, of course, you called me a pick-me girl. No, you're the pick-me girl. And I'm like, man, there's glitter's going everywhere. And then, of course, Sarah Ann has a little spat with Jessica, but that's not even the worst of it. They get into it later. Chelsea then chimes in and says, well, I've never stayed up until 5 a.m. chatting with anyone. Okay, Chelsea. And Sarah Ann, of course, tries to defend herself further and says, y'all should know. Everybody knows I can talk. Okay, girl. Okay. Laura then continues by saying, you're both disgusting. And then she says, Jeramey apparently told Sarah Ann that he was going to break up with her. Her meaning Laura. So I'm like, really? But Jeramey and Sarah Ann said that's not true. So it was a lot of he said, she said. We can't prove any of this, but whether you're team Sarah Ann or team Laura, I guess that depends on what truth you prefer. But if that's true, oh, Jeramey, you're a villain. Just, we didn't know it, I guess, until it was too late. So in this next segment, we see some never-before-seen footage, which I actually really liked. And then Sarah Ann and Laura, they have this conversation about the DM at the lake party. Basically, Sarah Ann's apologizing to Laura, saying that, hey, I sent the DM because I needed closure with Jeramey. Or maybe she meant to say she needed to be closer with Jeramey. Who knows? And then Laura is basically trying to give some sort of advice to Sarah Ann. You can tell she's like upset, but she's also saying like, listen, I've closed the door on Jeramey and I, so just be very careful. Here's what you should know. And meanwhile, Sarah Ann is still digging a hole for herself because what she thinks sounds good just doesn't. And then in this moment, Laura reveals that apparently Jeramey talked about his own image to Laura and how he just didn't want to look worse than Jimmy. Whoa. So eventually after the scene ends, they come back and then they ask Jimmy, well, how do you feel about that? And Jimmy reveals that apparently the other guys in the men's living quarters were encouraging him when he had to make a decision, right, between Jessica and between Chelsea. And all the while, Jeramey is apparently saying, and I quote from Jimmy, at least I can sleep at night knowing Jimmy's the villain. Jeez. Now, Jeramey said, I don't recall saying that, but guys, he's caught dead to rights and eventually apologizes. He's like a 5-year-old who's like, put the candy bar back, and then the kid's like, I don't have it. Okay, maybe I do. Come on, Jeramey. We're not new to this. We're true to this, homie. Stop it. And once Sarah Ann is asked, hey, you still talk to anybody else from the show? Sarah Ann says that she doesn't follow any of the women from the show on social media. And then Chelsea comes out of nowhere with the feathers on her dress and says, hey, well, it makes sense because you unfollowed all the girls at the lake party, but you still followed all our fiancés. Oh, it's messy. And then Jessica adds that she took Sarah Ann out of the group chat that those girls were in, and this is when Sarah Ann flips out. Sarah Ann is shouting at Jessica and says, you think you're a girl's girl? You're not a girl's girl. And then Jessica said, no, you're not the girl's girl. So that's why, because you're not a girlie's girl, you're out the chat. Like, you're not for us, you're against us. You're a snake in the grass. And honestly, do we blame Jessica for taking Sarah Ann out of the group chat? No. Because to be honest, that is awkward, guys, is it not? It is. Sarah Ann, girl, stop. So then Nick is like, hey, has anyone seen Jeramey since the show ended? And Chelsea said, oh yeah, which was weird. But then she quickly followed it up, thankfully, and said every time that she actually sees Jeramey, he tells her that they're broken up. What? To which Jeramey says, hey, oh, hold on, we've had our ups and downs, but you know what, like any relationship, we fought through them, and we're moved in with one another, and we've been together in one house since October. And thank God we do not live with them, because that would probably be very stressful. But Sarah Ann then gets pressed on another video, so we're kind of staying with Sarah Ann and Jeramey here, right? And this is honestly the most dramatic moment of the entire reunion, so I'm with it. So Sarah Ann gets pressed on a video she put out on social media saying, and I quote, this is reality TV. It's meant to entertain you, and we entertained you, baby, or something like that. So this is when Nick and Vanessa start getting defensive over the Love is Blind brand and the experiment itself, because they're like, so are you saying, Sarah Ann, this is just an experiment to you? That you are here to entertain us and you're just playing a character? And Sarah Ann, to be honest, I can see her, that she's just playing a character. This seems very surface level. So I believe her when she says, we were just here to entertain you, it's reality TV, whatever. Yeah. So in order to save face, Sarah Ann starts saying she loves Jeramey with all of her heart and then starts crying. No, we're not buying it. We're not. So eventually Jeramey then says, okay, my turn to speak up again. I'm taking some accountability for that night with Sarah Ann. And Laura says that she's been waiting for that, but it was, too little too late. And before they let Laura go and experience time in Barcelona, because, that's how they pronounce it in Spain, Laura says, you know what? I am dating somebody right now. And it's an awkward smile by Sarah Ann. You can just tell she's like, whatever, I'm not happy for her. So, you know what? They had their spat. The beef was there. Laura exits the Zoom chat. And hey, you can only go up from here, right, guys? This reunion is already off to a great start. Oh, and one more note. Before Laura signed off, of course, she had to end on an awkward note and bring up the bean dip thing and say sorry to 80. This is awkward for 80. Can we stop bringing this up? Yeah, I even felt terrible just recapping that moment right now for you. It's awkward. So eventually they bring the not so incredible Hulk out of his holding cell and they welcome him in to the show. And when I tell you that this man was speechless, he barely had anything to say. So as he's walking out and going to sit on the couch, I gotta admit it was a very awkward walk, and the mullet is back, y'all. The man's got a brand. And eventually Vanessa brings up the social media drama, and they did not hold back, you guys, because if you're kind of late on this, Trevor allegedly had a relationship before and during filming for Love is Blind. And let me tell you guys, they brought receipts. There were screenshots that were shown during the reunion with Trevor and his partner that he had during his time on Love is Blind. So I'm going to go ahead and read them for you. Here we go, y'all. Alright, so they showed the text between them both, and Trevor says, I love you so much, honey. I'm excited for it, but more excited to get back to you after and start our life together. And then Trevor, says in another part of the conversation, do you still love me? And then Trevor says again, I love you more than anything in this world, and I'm going to marry you. Bro, you done messed up. Oh, but Trevor's not done. He says this, and I quote, I hope you know how much I love you, and had to pretend this wasn't real life to say anything I said. Oh, man. I'm sorry, but Trevor, you are either doing this on purpose to kind of get that attention, you know what I mean? Or you genuinely have zero awareness of the internet and how things work, because this is gonna get out, and boy did it ever. So Trevor, they ask for his response, and he says, and I kid you not, he was doing that for like 5 minutes. At least it felt like 5 minutes. But I loved it when AD said, "Say it with your chest, don't get quiet now." She's so right. And finally, Trevor uses his words and says he planned to say something, but he's just speechless, you know? He can't find the words. And eventually says, "Okay, guys, but I technically, I wasn't really dating her. I mean, we were interested in one another, but we weren't dating." Like, they didn't put a label on it. Liar. Liar. You don't say that you're gonna marry somebody if y'all aren't dating. Give me a break. Apparently, Trevor did tell his partner that he wants to go on the show to try something new and basically toy with women's hearts. This is awful. And Trevor said that he himself is toxic and that he does need therapy. Okay. I mean, he said it. We didn't, but he said it. So yeah, Trevor's toxic, y'all. And Chelsea eventually mentions that she had this intuition of why she didn't pick Trevor, but she couldn't put her finger on it. But now she can. But to be honest, if Trevor asked Chelsea first, we all know Chelsea would have said yes. And Brittany then steps in and says, "Listen, Trevor, you disrespected the experiment. How could you?" And she's right. And then there's a moment where Trevor tries to again defend himself and bring up something that Johnny could even corroborate on. And Johnny's like, his face is just saying everything. He's basically saying, "Don't drag me into this nonsense, bro." And then Nick Lachey says, "All right, let me let y'all know something. We don't want people coming on this show for fame." And I'm like, yes, the producers were in his ear too. But Nick Lachey, we get it. We all agree. You don't come on this show, of course, to play with people's hearts. Be a good person, right? So Trevor apparently had asked to leave, but no one really acknowledged it. And then Nick Lachey remembered and said, "Hey, you wanted to leave, so you can leave now." And I'm like, who is this person? And what did they do with Nick Lachey? So Trevor leaves the show and will probably never be heard of again in the Love is Blind fandom, unless he ends up on the show like Perfect Match or some nonsense like that. But eventually, they have to break the tension. And how do they do it? They show a sign in the crowd that says AD all day. Now listen, which producer gave that audience member the sign so they could break that tension? Who did it? But eventually, they take this time to then transition to AD and Clay. So we get a moment to address what happened with them during season 6. So apparently AD and Clay did have conversations weeks after their ceremony, and Clay called AD first. And apparently Clay also apologized to AD's family. I'll be honest, Clay's coming off a little mature in this reunion. I'm not gonna lie. I'm surprised at that too, trust me. And then Clay said, "Listen, I made a mistake saying no at the altar to AD, and that apparently AD's still the love of his life." And his voice is cracking with emotion. And I'm thinking, I believe him? So Vanessa takes the time to ask AD if she'd date Clay again, and AD smirks, and then looks at Clay and says, "Next question. Girl, stop being coy." Actually, it's in this moment where she's giving mixed signals because of some stuff that comes up in just a little bit. And then Clay gets asked the same question, and Clay says, "Yeah, I date AD again." Oh, he's in love with her. He's still in love with her, y'all. And AD said, "You had your chance, homeboy, and respectfully, you played in my face." And I'm like, didn't you just smirk at him, smile as if y'all were almost like still dating? And then y'all have Thanksgiving together? I'm confused. Then Clay began to give some excuses as to why he believes it's not true that he didn't want to get married. It was just in that moment. He didn't think he could be a good husband to AD. We've heard it all. We all watched season 6. We know Clay. And then Clay said that he believes right now in this moment, yeah, he is ready to marry AD, and that he would be a good husband. Starts crying and says that he's been in therapy and putting in the work. And I'm starting to think, maybe I do believe him, though, that he's been putting in the work. What do y'all think? And then Clay makes a comment that he felt like he's not a good person, and AD's rubbing his leg and saying, no, you're a good guy. So again, the mixed signals are mixed signaling. And eventually there was a very tender moment between both Clay and Brett, because Clay said that he was watching a previous season of Love is Blind, because he had never watched the show before, and said, "Hey, Brett, that's an example of a good husband." And then Brett said, "Thank you, that's very humbling." And I'm like, you know what? This is nice. And then they eventually check in on Brett and Tiffany, the most unproblematic couple outside of Lauren and Cameron Speed from season 1. And apparently Brett and Tiffany have been traveling the world and they're looking for homes in Portland. We love it. just, we love it for it. I love you guys. So great. Come on the channel and have an interview anytime you want. And then eventually they go and they do a Johnny and Amy montage right after this. So they're keeping the good vibes. You know, they're keeping them going. They show a bunch of photos and videos that they all film vertically and not horizontally because I don't know why people do this, but it stinks to have the borders. Anyway, I gotta get off that high horse. And then, you know, of course they transition back to them and y'all, they just look great. They look great. So after that, we get into viewer questions being read by former cast members. And I'm going to be honest, the majority of them were awful. But I'm going to highlight 2 that were pretty good. So the first one is, Chelsea, what did you think of the conversation between Jessica and Laura at the bar? We remember this. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. This was the moment where I thought, oh boy, Jessica, she's a snake too. Her and Laura snaking together. So eventually, Chelsea says, look, yes, this was disrespectful to Jimmy and I's relationship at the time, to which I agree. It was disrespectful. And then Jessica said, listen, I'm sorry. We talked about it. It's on me. That's not who I am, XYZ. And apparently they hang out all the time, and Jessica, apparently her daughter, Autumn, calls Chelsea Auntie Chelsea, so they're on good terms. Wow. So the second question is, Jimmy, what did your friend think of Chelsea sharing your secret with the world? Oh, and if you guys don't remember, you remember the 2 girlfriends that Jimmy brought to meet Chelsea? Well, he slept with one of them, and their secret's out there for the world. Apparently, there's one friend that is very upset with Jimmy still, and Jimmy said that, hey, at that time, that's when I should have ended our engagement based on that argument and not continued. Because I'm guessing, you know, listen, Jimmy, I don't think Jimmy knew what he wanted, so I don't even know if he was in the right frame of mind to say no to Chelsea at that time. But one thing's for certain, he definitely made her cookies. We then transition to Jessica and Jimmy's segment because, hey, let's keep the drama going. They center this around their lake party conversation at first, and Jimmy said, hey, when I saw Jessica, it was more of a friend thing instead of a chemistry thing. But then Jimmy says he recognizes how gorgeous Jessica is, and Jimmy apparently did confirm that he unfollowed Jessica and went private on social media after she didn't follow him back, and it was Jeramey who showed Jimmy Jessica's photo at the gym. Oh, Jeramey. Yo, Jeramey, this is like Hall of Fame villain for Love is Blind. My goodness. So then the Lachey's ask, Jimmy, Jessica, are you guys friends? And Jessica says, I thought we were. Yo, Jessica low-key killed it in this reunion, y'all. Hilarious. And then Jessica called out Jimmy and said, yeah, you've been saying some bad things about me in interviews and framing me as a bad person when I've done nothing but frame you in the best light. Yes, Jimmy did say that Jessica got a good edit, and Jimmy lied. Apparently, Jimmy said that Jessica stormed out of their last date early, only 10 minutes in, and Jimmy still tried to keep up that lie, but Jessica said, well, bring out the receipts. To which the producers said, oh, we've got them. So then they literally showed us the time elapsed in their final pod date. And guys, it was 2 hours and 13 minutes. And then at the end, that's when Jessica said, I can't convince you anymore. And it was Jimmy who actually asked for a break within that 2 hour time frame to reassess and come back together. So listen, Jimmy, I'm sorry, but I can't defend you there, bro. And I don't want to because you lied. We can't have that. Now, these next segments are pretty quick because I don't really have much notes for them, but they asked Chelsea, how you handling the Megan Fox debate? And Chelsea said she's handling it with grace. Girl. Oh, wow. Then Zach and Bliss apparently had a baby shower where past contestants showed up like Marshall and many others, and they're having a baby girl, and good for them, but Zach and Bliss weren't on the show. Yeah. Zach, though, that beard, well, it's giving lumberjack. And then Alexa and Brennan reveal that they're expecting a baby together too after infertility issues, so good for them. What a blessing. Seriously, it's so sweet to hear that. And it's also sweet to not have to hear Vanessa Lachey ask about Love is Blind babies every single second. And towards the back half of the reunion, they finally get to Brittany and Kenneth, and it took forever to get to them. Of course, they start their segment off, it's just with stupidity. Alexa asks a question about whether they would have reconsidered watching back the footage having sex if it would have changed things between them. Really? But there was a mature response by Brittany saying she didn't need to test that out between them to know whether they'd be good for each other in marriage, and I love that. So then they turn the camera on to Kenneth and they bring up his cell phone usage. Finally. And surprisingly, homeboy was not texting during the reunion. So I don't know what happened. Maybe he told his students, like, not today. You don't text me today, but tomorrow y'all can text me, whatever. But he used his principal duties as an excuse to why he was on his phone all of the time with Brittany. You know what? I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I think that's BS. Because don't most schools have a principal and a vice principal? So couldn't there be somebody to assume the responsibility while he was filming? And if he really did care for his students that much, and he couldn't spend time away, and he needed to dedicate time to his craft, why did he choose to go and film Love is Blind? He knew the time commitment was coming. And then eventually they do address Kenneth being very cold to Brittany as he calls things off between them. Now Kenneth said, there's two sides to every story. What you saw on camera is not the whole picture. He said that he apparently called Clay and he was in shambles after what just happened to him. Like he didn't act as the catalyst for them breaking up and calling off their engagement. And we also hear him on camera talk to one of his friends saying that I'm gonna come over, I'm gonna pack up all my stuff. Listen, Kenneth was checked out after the Dominican Republic. Come on, y'all. But apparently Kenneth and Brittany speak every single day. They FaceTime. They said they're not in a relationship. They're just very good friends. So at least things ended amicably. You know what I mean? I know, y'all were expecting a big mess and drama and shouting match. We didn't get that. I'm just kind of annoyed that they didn't press Kenneth more on him being cold towards Brittany. Because to be honest, he was gaslighting her, guys. It's just the truth. So then apparently they check in on Colleen and Matt, and they moved in together, got a cute little townhome, and that's it. Okay, moving on to this part, which had me scratching my head. Matthew and his drama between AD and Amber. Matthew was apparently invited to attend the reunion, but declined because, I don't know, maybe he's too busy cosplaying as Captain America. And then AD and Amber said that, hey, we got receipts, pull them out, because Matthew tried to play us both. So in principle, he did tell them the same thing about, asking their father first and getting his blessing beforehand, XYZ. So Matthew kind of used that as a way to try to maybe win one or the other over. And eventually, when they end that part of the conversation, they turn the attention to AD. And I'm starting to think, why are they doing this? And they asked AD, have you spoken to Matthew? And you guys, AD said she reconnected with Matthew after the show. And they went on a couple of dates. Girl, alright, I'm sorry. You remember in the pod she said that she attracts red flags? At this point, you are voluntarily running through the equivalent of a sunflower field, but full of red flags, on purpose. What's wrong with you? And then she said, Matthew, kinda cute. And I just know Clay is tight. That man is upset. But AD says her and Matthew are not dating anymore. They're two different people. And I'm starting to think to myself, AD, the pods couldn't tell you that? Come on. I mean, you don't gotta see someone to know that they're just delusional and looking for vanity through an experiment like this. Come on. So of course they got to check in on Chelsea and Kwame, so we get some moments with them and they said they're very happy, and Chelsea reveals that she is now helping cast for Love is Blind. How we feeling about this, real family? How we feeling about Chelsea, a previous contestant, now casting for Love is Blind? You know, if it were up to me, if you guys asked, I don't know if anyone did, but I'll tell you anyway. I think it's actually a good idea. She's been through the experiment, it's been successful, so why not let her cast or help in the casting process for future seasons of Love is Blind? Because I'm not gonna lie, they need all the help they can get. And then they check in on Izzy and Micah, and I still don't know what they are, but I don't know if they're anything, so why pair them together? It was weird, you guys. Apparently, Izzy and Micah said they'll be on the next season of Perfect Match, and Jessica is on the next season of Perfect Match as well, and Izzy stands up and cheers, saying, my credit score is fixed. Good job, homie. To which Nick Lachey then says, dinner's on you. Are you trying to get this man back into debt? And they end the show. Of course, they can't end it on a nice note. They got to end it awkwardly. I think it's Vanessa Lachey that brought up that Clay apparently microwaved Gatorade in the men's living quarters. Like, why? Why do we care about that? Just go, let the credits roll, do the congratulatory Love is Wine, chin chin, and then eat the food that's probably pretty cold by now. So that's it, you guys. That's all of the reunion for season 6. There's gonna be after the altar specials, maybe just one, because there's only one married couple. So I am curious to see if they do something like that. But I I'm gonna be honest, season 6, a success. I don't know, y'all. This was more memorable than season 5. Yeah, I'm willing to say it's way more memorable than season 5. So, hey, y'all. That's all I got for the reunion recap, but I need to know now the conversation does not stop with me. It begins and continues in the comments, so go ahead, let me know right now in the comments your feelings on the reunion. What are you rating it? Which moment was your favorite? Do you feel that Sarah Ann somehow got all that glitter off her arms? I don't know. There's glue gone. Is there glitter gone? I don't know if they saw that. But y'all, I'm going to keep my eyes open for the next season of Love is Blind and more Netflix reality shows, so if you don't want to miss out, hit the big red button below and subscribe to the channel, guys. Thank you for your support all season long, and here's to more success on the channel as the year goes on. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you at the next screening.